Hello, guys. This is Tony, and we have Carlo Pastina, Mr. Pastina, over here, replacing D today. D had a couple things to take care of today.
Actually, D was too nervous. That's what
D
D
was
was.
too nervous.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I think he was scared. I think he was scared.
I think he was scared too.
So what we got today is the debate of the cousin debate, as we like to call it. We got Vince Carter versus Tracy McGrady. What are your thoughts about this debate?
So these two guys were two players that when I was a kid and when I was growing up and watching basketball, they were two of the stars. So Vince Carter, obviously in the late 90s, early 2000s, when he was coming up with the Raptors and winning the slam dunk contest back in 2000 and just lighting the world on fire. And then he had T-Mac in his early days in Toronto as well. And then he went to Orlando and became this all-around scorer that was nuts and went to Houston. So these are two players that are actually quite similar, but also two players that are the ultimate like what-if players that what if they were healthy year in and year out, and what if they were with a winning organization that these two players could have been two of the best players in their era.
Oh, for sure. But it is hard to be the best player in the era when, Kobe and Shaq were in your area too.
Exactly. Kobe and Shaq. And then also you're as brittle as T-Mac, who's made out of like glass.
Yeah. But yeah, we're going to get into it. So let's get started. Carlo, this is it. Are you taking Vince Carter or are you taking T-Mac, who's dunked? I mean, to be honest, everybody's dunked on Sean Bradley, so that's not that big of a deal. But
he was like 7'7" or something like that.
Oh, no, he was like 7'2" or 7. I think he was as tall as Porzingis.
I mean, that's kind of like dunking over a giraffe or something. So I mean, that's kind of impressive.
Right?
I mean, I'm gonna go with the dude who has that mean kind of smug wild look. I'm going with my guy, T-Mac.
All right.
So it's no disrespect to Vince Carter, but one luxury that T-Mac had was that he kind of got out at the right time after 16 seasons, and Vince Carter has hung on, like an old man who doesn't want to retire at 65. So he's played 22 seasons and he's been a journeyman for the last about 7 or 8 years, and I'm not going to use that against this debate, but even at their peak. So like if we take T-Mac at his prime and Vince Carter at his prime, I believe that Tracy McGrady was a little bit more of a all-around better scorer with actually less help. So Vince Carter, he had the luxury to get traded to the New Jersey Nets when they still had Jason Kidd, who was a point guard at a really high level. They had Richard Jefferson, who was a above-average player. I mean, he was an all-star. And Kenyon Martin, who was actually a really, really good player. Tracy McGrady, I mean, he played with a super old Patrick Ewing, a one-legged Grant Hill, and he played with Yao Ming for a couple years. And Yao Ming, at his time, I'm going to give him his dues, was a all-star center year in and year out. He was really, really good. But that's pretty much it, So he never played with the Hall of Famer like a Jason Kidd or like a high caliber all-star player like a Kenyon Martin and whatnot. Plus, too, he was always in a harder conference. That on the Western Conference when he played for the Rockets was always a little bit more difficult. Now I'm going to get into a little bit of the numbers because you know me, I'm Professor Pastina, and I love my statistics here. So Vince Carter actually made more All-Star games than Tracy McGrady. And it's kind of funny. Tracy McGrady played 16 years. He only made 7 All-Star games. Vince Carter, 22 years, he made 8. So, isn't that crazy? That, how great these guys are. You would think they would have been 11, 12, 13-time All-Stars, But obviously both were injury-riddled, and which is unfortunate. But all NBA first teams, T-Mac has 2, Vince Carter's got 0. All NBA teams, Tracy McGrady has 7 and Vince Carter only has 2. So I also have more and more stats, but basically what that shows me is that when you make an all NBA team, that you are the best of the best during your time. So the fact that Tracy McGrady could be on those all NBA teams 7 times, that speaks volumes for me. He averaged more points per game. He averaged more rebounds, more assists, more steals, and more blocks. Now, I know that Vince Carter, that his last 6 or 7 years have kind of hurt his productivity because he's been a journeyman. But also with T-Mac, his last 3 or 4 years, he was injury-riddled as well. So those stats hurt his numbers. So that's almost a wash. So I'm taking my guy T-Mac because in his prime, he was better. And over the course of his career, he was a little bit better, in my opinion.
Okay. All right. Those are great points that I was going to discuss myself. But when you talk about the 7 and the 8, team, what did he play? 21 years. Vince Carter.
Vince Carter played 22 and T-Mac played 16.
Yeah. So 8 years he was an all-star, but it was his first 9 years. His first 9 years, 8 of the 9 he was an all-star, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or no, first 10 years, 8 of the 10 because he got injured. Okay.
Sure.
After between the Toronto and New Jersey Nets, out of those 10 years, 8 of the years he was an all-star. 1 of the years he was rookie of the year, right? So right off the bat, they played on the same team, and we already know who was the number 1 option on that. More so because T-Mac wasn't getting as much playing time because he came in as a rookie, right? So it's
he was young.
If you look at it, he was the number 1 option. Vince Carter was, I think, more in-game changing when it came to his athletic ability. Mm-hmm. But scoring-wise, I have to give it up to T-Mac, okay?
Sure.
I just think overall player, Vince Carter was a better teammate, but not by far.
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
he had his issues, right?
Paul, I was going to say too that even having that point's a little bit hard, just because neither of them went to an NBA Finals, and neither of them won an NBA Finals. So it's really hard to go.
It is.
Tell by kind of who was a better playoff performer and stuff, because both these players actually were pretty their teams were very disappointing in the playoffs. So when it comes to winning, it's really hard to compare when neither of these guys really won anything besides individual awards.
Exactly. Yeah, like I was saying, as a 2-time MVP or 2-time All NBA, 8 out of the 10 years. He became an all-star. After that, when he went to Orlando, he was more of a 2 guy, and then he more accepted to the role. I don't think it was all about money. And the one thing out of these 2, I respect Vince Carter more because he said, I don't care what you think. I'm going to go to my graduation in North Carolina, in Chapel Hill, get my diploma, and then come back for the game. People said that was selfish. I think people who thought that is selfish are selfish.
Yeah.
Because
I think that shows a lot of integrity.
Yes. For him to play 3 years in college, right, and then and think about that college team. That was stacked with no pun intended, but Jerry Stackhouse was on that team, right?
Yeah. Jerry Stackhouse, he was a high-level NBA player for the Pistons in his heyday.
I do think Vince Carter had a great career. It was more of him saying, hey, after I think those 3 teams, Toronto, New Jersey, and Orlando, at the time, Jason Kidd. Let's not be too ridiculous, but he didn't really have any help in Toronto. Besides maybe T-Mac, but he was a rookie in the second year.
Well, and you could say the same thing for T-Mac in Orlando, too. He didn't really have
he had Grant Hill.
That much help either. But Grant Hill was injury-riddled. And
he was in and
early 2000. So that was pretty much towards the end of Grant Hill's career.
Now don't forget this. Tim Duncan was supposed to be on that team.
He was supposed to, but then wasn't there a trade that went wrong or whatever?
Here's the story behind it, okay? Because I watch a lot of YouTube documentaries and all this stuff. The story behind why Tim Duncan never went to Orlando Magic with Tracy McGrady and Grant Hill was because Doc Rivers wouldn't allow Tim Duncan's mother to fly with him to Orlando to meet the team. So he said that's more of a disrespect to his mom, is the way he looked at it. So you potentially said,
man, what could have been? What could have been the Orlando Magic?
Yeah, exactly. Now,
and then what could have been the San Antonio Spurs?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I'm just imagining them without.
But that's why I love the sports world. There's always what ifs.
Exactly. With these two guys, it is the complete what if. Just because my argument is that Vince Carter, his skills diminished as he got older because he decided to go and stick around in the NBA, and that obviously his points per game, his assists, and all those things, all those numbers have dropped down. T-Mac, his numbers dropped down. What?
11 out of his first 13 years, Vince Carter did average over 20 a game.
Oh yeah.
Like he was no scrub at all.
I
think overall everything, him accepting as a team player, even coming off the bench in coming off the bench in 2010, 2011, he was still averaging 14 to 16 points per game off the bench.
Yeah.
But him accepting that role as a team player, doing everything, and then him hitting game winners for Dallas Mavericks, right? Prior to them the following year.
And Memphis, right? And the Memphis Grizzlies.
I think you got to look also not just at the stats, but the ultimate team player. He's going to do whatever it takes to win. And I think he did put his playing career a little too long. But let's talk about who expanded the game more.
Let me just backtrack I'm really quick that in my opinion that because T-Mac played 16 years, Vince Carter played 22 seasons. So the argument is that Vince Carter, obviously he decided to go and take that backseat role, become more of a bench guy and a mentor. And in my opinion, that I don't think Tracy McGrady would have ever been that I believe Tracy McGrady, if it wasn't for his injuries, that he still would have played at a considerably high level for those final 4 years, when he only averaged 8 points a game, 9 points a game, 6 points a game, because he got injured. So that's basically my thought process, that I don't think that Tracy McGrady's skills would have ever diminished to where he would only average 9 points, 10 points, or whatever.
In the 20s, for sure.
That is, that Tracy McGrady was just such a lethal scorer that, he had seasons where he averaged 32.1 points a game, and Vince Carter never had a season where he averaged over 30. He had some great seasons, don't get me wrong, but 32.1, that was right up there.
But that's only one phase of the game. Also, I think Vince Carter was the more all-around player. What I mean by that, not just offense, but also he was the better defender too.
Defense, they're actually a lot closer than you think.
Because Tracy McGrady always had that bigger responsibility than Vince Carter when it came to offensive load. That's why Vince Carter didn't have to score 30. He could do 20, 25, and then pick up the best player, right? Best wing player. Where T-Mac had so much of a responsibility on the offensive side.
Because he didn't have nearly as much help as Vince Carter did. Because Tracy McGrady,
Vince Carter,
he played with a lot of B players and below.
I would say Yao Ming, Hall of Famer. Okay.
It's a basketball Hall of Fame. It's not really that hard to make it, right? Yao Ming is not in the Hall of Fame because of what he did for the Rockets. He's in the Hall of Fame for what he did in his years in China or basketball overall, not NBA.
Well, it's the same thing for, like, look at if you're coming straight out of high school straight to the NBA, that's different. You're just NBA. But when you play college ball, where all these students have to play college ball now, and then go to the NBA, they take accountability of what you did in college and in the NBA. It's not just the NBA. Or if you're international, let's say, like, talk about Luka Doncic. It's what you did, Euro, MVP, all that, and then what he's doing here. So it's not just all – the only time you can talk about straight into the Hall of Fame would be Kobe, T-Mac, LeBron. All these players came from high school.
Yeah, and that's why I disregard that argument with T-Mac having a Hall of Famer, because yes, Yao Ming is a Hall of Famer, but not solely because of his time in the NBA.
No,
yeah, exactly. It's because of what he did mainly in China.
I would say, if you talk about Hall of Fame, right? Vince Carter did play with Dwight. I think Dwight will, at the end of the day, be a Hall of Famer. Okay.
Probably.
Especially on the defensive side, he was just one of those, before his back injuries, one of the best defenders there was.
And again, I mean, in his prime, he led a team to the NBA Finals. He beat his team beat a LeBron James-led team to make it to the Finals. And he was a top 3 player in the NBA
at that time,
in his prime.
That was a good team, too. Jameer Nelson, Rashard Lewis,
Peter Turkoglu.
He, bro. Like, when I was at that year, they went – I think that was 08.
Michael Petrus. That was 08, 09. And, I mean, it was just a big dude with Howard. And he had 3-point shooters all around him.
Yeah, and that was good.
Yeah.
And then I think, Vince had a little more help, but T-Mac had to do more than, Vince. So, especially in a harder conference. So, I understand what you're saying as well. Also,
in my opinion,
overall, I think overall, I mean, scoring is one thing. But if you can't defend fully, I
wouldn't say that Tracy McGrady's defensive metrics are as bad as like Carmelo Anthony or someone like that. So
they're not James Harden bad. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm not gonna call him a bum, and maybe his defensive metrics weren't as good as Vince Carter and whatnot. It's just that he was like solely a man on his island that like the load was all on his shoulders in order for his team to win. And whatnot.
Houston, you had that D'Antoni system too, so it wasn't fully. I think it was like you score in 7 seconds or less. That was the type of atmosphere it was, right? And I don't think I'll ever win a championship. Like, this Rockets team is a joke, right? So, I don't think it ever. So I think, they had, think about, that's why they brought Shane Battier in to guard Kobe, right? Like, the Phoenix Suns bought Rajah Bell. The Celtics had I forgot his name. He was a shutdown defender, right? Like, that's why, so they could take the load off of his, so he doesn't have to fully play defense. But like, he still played decent defense, but wasn't on the level of Vince because he didn't have. So it's kind of like balanced in a way.
Yeah.
Right? So
I think that we can both agree that it would have been nice to go and see these guys play. Like a 15 to 20-year career, like in a good organization, no injuries, with another star, or two, to get to NBA Finals and whatnot, because these were two of the most talented players in the 2000s era.
I think Vince Carter he just elevated the game more than Tracy when it came to fans, meaning
when it came to a wow factor because of the cookie jar dunk, obviously.
The dunking, but Tracy was more of, I'm going to drop 9-10 points here in less than a minute to tie the game.
Well, I remember when he had 13 points in 39 seconds.
Spurs. Yeah.
Remember that? I know, and I'm like, that's my guy, T-Mac.
Like like I was telling you before, like Kobe talked about Tracy so much, right? They met when Kobe was 19 and 18, and Tracy was 17. They played against each other in AAU, right? They were almost on the same. The Lakers almost drafted Tracy. They were gonna trade up, and then you would have had Shaq.
They would have scored 150 points a night.
Oh my god!
I know.
Kobe was saying Tracy McGrady had the same attributes as me, just taller and more freakishly athletic, but he didn't have the work ethic. And I do think when you play that long, you got to also think Vince Carter had that work ethic like crazy too.
Well, yeah,
Not as crazy as Kobe, but
sure.
He took care of his
from
body.
A physical, exactly from like a nutrition standpoint and whatnot, because I'm playing at a high. I mean, like playing in any professional sport for over 20 years is unheard of nowadays. You know.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen. So hats off to Vince Carter for a great career. I mean, he retired this year at what age? 41, right? 42, something like that.
41 years old.
But, I mean, he could have been the coach for the Hawks.
Yeah. But know what's going to be great is he's going to transition straight into what Tracy does in commentating, and he's going to be great at it. Like he's going to be.
Oh yeah, I think so too. Yeah,
you ready to check?
I think he would be a great coach too. You know, like
because think so. I don't think he wants to do it right now. Obviously, with everything going on, I think he's more of down the road. But I think they were both high IQ players. Obviously, you have to when you're scoring 20 plus a game.
Yeah. For that long,
the man of the team. Right, so, but it's about that segment time of where we check the polls.
All right, well, let's see the polls.
All right, the polls.
Ooh, look at that, Tony.
The polls are in.
My guy.
53% Tracy, 47% Vince. What are your thoughts, Carlo?
Well, I want to take this moment and say thank you to all the fans out there, and I'm glad that you guys think a lot like me, a proven winner, and you guys see it from my lens. So you guys definitely made the correct choice in picking Tracy McGrady. And Tony, I'm sorry, but you lose again.
Last time we were on the team, okay?
I know.
He was like, "Why are you guys attacking me?" No, but it was good.
I have that effect.
It was a really good. It was close, so I knew it could go either way. I think at the end of the day, it was more of the scoring ability and not as playing with as much help as Vince did.
Absolutely.
I think that was one of the major factors.
Absolutely. I mean, like, you know, if you had to go and do a pick 'em, and like these two guys were like, if you had to go and choose captains, and it was Tracy McGrady and Vince Carter as the last two guys left, you like it would be almost impossible to go and choose who you wanted because they're so close.
All right, guys. So that was the debate. Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady. I thought Vince Carter won. Carlo thought T-Mac won. But the phone.
Hey, man. I mean, it's just what the fans think. I mean, the fans obviously spoke.
Absolutely. So that's it for today. This is the Saturday Morning Traffic. This is Tony. D is not here, but Carlo held it down, and we're out.
Oh, yeah.